friends, it's April
And Lauren.
and this is Wife's Tales live.
Sort of.
Yeah. Live on camera. We don't do this very often. We're
No.
just the two of us.
We're trying to get more comfortable.
Yeah, on the camera, which I think we pretty much are.
A lot better than the beginning.
Yeah. Time out. Do you remember when we recorded our first podcast, how long it took us?
Yes.
And we literally recorded 5 minutes.
We had to re-record.
No, not even the first podcast, like when we were practicing.
Oh, yes.
2 hours.
I didn't like it. I mean, I still don't love this.
You're like, okay,
but...
should I press the button? Should I not?
Are you ready?
Really weird. Okay, anyways.
But now that we're a little more comfortable,
Yeah.
we can start talking more about
Now
why
that
we're
everybody
doing
knows our
this.
story, it's not really hard. So we wanted to come on to let you guys know, we get asked a lot of questions about our dynamic.
Yes.
And who we are and what we're doing. So we wanted to explain it to you from the time that we began until now. Just a little
recap. We've written several blogs now, and it's kind of, I think, hard for some people to go all the way back and start from the beginning. So we kind of took a pause and a timeout to recap where we've come from and why it is we're doing this and our dynamic. Because we're not just two random women. We're not just friends. We are the ex-wife and current wife of the same man.
And we co-parent 6 children together.
That's right. And the story goes a little bit further because we were actually neighbors.
Right. So we're going to go back from the beginning of our blog and we'll take a turn and just give you a little insight on who we are as individuals. And then when our stories collide, we'll go from there. So I am the OG teen mom.
You are.
I really am. Like before it was cool. Not that it is now, but before it was televised.
That's right.
I had a child when I was 15 and then was pregnant again in high school my senior year, graduated 5 months pregnant, and I was married in high school as a 16-year-old. Then when I graduated, I moved to North Carolina where I live now with my first husband, and he was in the Navy, and we were married for 8 years before we divorced, and it was not a very good marriage. And it was a horrible 3-year-long divorce. Now, after that, I met my second husband, and we were married for 13 years and had a son together. And we traveled all over for the military. We came back here to North Carolina again and moved into the house that we currently live in. And then I met Lauren.
I am a product of divorce. So I grew up in 2 different homes my whole life. I met my first husband when I was in high school. I was 18 and he was a Marine. He was my first Marine.
First Marine.
We have a thing with those men in uniform. I got married at 20. We did not have any children together. We were married collectively with our separation only 2 years. And during our separation, I met my second husband, which we have 3 boys together. And we had a very tumultuous marriage. A year into our actual marriage, I guess our oldest son was about 15 months old. My ex-husband, or my husband at the time, had a love child that he had during the pregnancy of my oldest. So that was something that we dealt with throughout our marriage. And I think ultimately it was one of the reasons why we didn't end up staying together. But we did move around a lot because of the military. And we moved here and bought the house right next door to the house that we're sitting in right now. And my husband and I separated. And shortly after our separation, he and April became friends. And got married after our divorce was finalized. And we've kind of all had what would you say, 2.5 years of
At least 2.5
really
years.
rocky relationship, because we're not just dealing with our exes moving on into new relationships. We all have children that we've had to co-parent and go through a very lengthy custody battle that lasted about 2 years for us.
And I think it was important for us to start out by telling our individual stories because a lot of those wounds from our childhood
That's right.
really carried over into our adulthood, which affected our ability to co-parent in a positive
Yes,
way.
it did.
Yes.
For sure.
Because you mentioned you were a product of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know my biological father until I was 10 years old. I always thought that the man my mother was married to, my dad, was my dad. And then they sat down and told me one night that he wasn't. And I met this man, and he just was in and out of my life for the next 15 years, 20 years maybe.
Wow.
And now we have no relationship, which is perfectly fine with me. But that being said, it made it very difficult for me in relationships, period. But especially in difficult relationships, I just don't know how to handle that.
Right.
So we didn't handle our situation very well at all.
No, we did not. Being a product and raised in two different households with parents that were divorced, I think I had blinders on what it was supposed to look like, because that's what it was for me growing up, and going through it myself, it ended up being completely different. And you really don't know how to navigate any of it.
No.
And for my ex-husband and I, we had a lot of emotions and anger towards one another that came out during our custody battle. And it wasn't fair on either side, but it just goes to show what you're willing to go through, or what you do put someone through when you're angry.
Right. There were a lot of unresolved issues between the two of you that carried over into our marriage and affected our relationship. Because it didn't start out very well.
Oh no, you don't say!
It didn't start out very well at all. And if you read through our blogs, you could see that there was a little past history because we were neighbors. Even though John and I didn't date and get into a romantic relationship until after your divorce, we had a friendship, and I think it just made things difficult, and there were a lot of unanswered questions.
There were. And, you know, there were 2-3 sides to the story at times, that what was happening on one side of the fence was different than what was happening on the other side of the fence, and a lot of blurred lines going on. And so, yeah, we did not have some of our finest moments.
No, we didn't.
I walked a watering can right next door.
And wrote a really nasty
A
note.
lovely letter.
Was it nice?
No, but
we both did a lot of things that we weren't and aren't proud of.
oh, definitely not. But we can laugh about them now.
Yes.
And we do want to put it out there because, you know, yes, we're not proud of them, but the emotions and the level you get to sometimes out of frustration, it happens.
You can't contain it.
It happens.
It boils over, and then that's when the bad comes out.
And we will eventually get to the place where we talk about our friendship and getting into a better dynamic when it comes to our co-parenting now. We all live, that's another thing I wanted to touch on, we all live very close to each other. So I no longer live next door. However, I do live in the same town. And go ahead.
But I live in the same home that I shared with my second husband. He now lives about 3 houses down the street, and my first husband lives
Just across the street from him.
yes. So it's like a triangle, and I'm the point, and they're the 2 ends.
Yeah, and we're all coming and going, and we all hang out. We are all friends. To say that there isn't rough times would be a lie.
There
but
are.
you know, we still argue and have disagreements, but we collectively raise all of our children. You have 2 adult children and also a grandchild. So,
but we all get it done. We all do it together as a team, and we have set a very strong foundation for our children. And we want them always to know that we will do anything for them, and we have. We've sacrificed a lot for the sake of our children's happiness.
We absolutely
And I
have.
wouldn't change that for anything, because while this is Lauren's first go at co-parenting with someone, I did co-parent with my first ex-husband, and we did it really well after the 3-year hiatus. So when we came into this situation, it was so unfamiliar to me. I didn't understand why it was so difficult.
why it wasn't going as smoothly as the first.
It just should
Yeah.
flow,
Yeah.
because that's what it did for me before. But I'd always been the alpha female. I was in charge, and now there was another female,
Yeah.
and I wasn't used to like having to take, not even I won't say orders from you because that's not your personality,
Yeah.
but even instruction, or it's just always, everyone's always trusted my ability to just take care of things. And now you do.
Oh, I do.
But
Sure.
before, you didn't do that because you didn't know who I was. So for me to just come in and do what I always do, which is just take charge of a situation, that wasn't the right thing for you. And in any situation, it wasn't
Right.
the right way to go about it.
I think it is now, just because I trust you and I
Right.
need you to take charge sometimes, because that's not my personality. I need you to take charge.
Thanks.
But when you're coming into an unfamiliar situation and you have unresolved issues
Sure.
with the person I was initially co-parenting with, my children's father, I was like, who is this woman? Thinking she's going to come up in here. But yeah, we are going to touch on all of that, kind of
Yeah.
all of those things and different topics. One of my favorites is going to be talking about the step parent and your children calling them mom or dad, and the roles of step parenting and ex-wife, because I have a role now, and I always try to be very respectful that you are the wife and the stepmom, and I respect that. And we both, I think, in building our friendship, took a step back and put ourselves in each other's shoes for a
Yes.
second.
Absolutely.
To really, truly understand. I was once married to your husband, and I can put myself in that place and be like, you know what? I wouldn't want someone else being disrespectful of my role as his wife.
Right.
So I can come at it like that.
And you had that situation a little bit because
I
of
did.
the child that he had with another woman.
That's right.
And you weren't involved in that at all.
No.
And that was so shocking to me because that's just not something that I would stand by and allow to happen without. When you are family, and I wouldn't have expected this, Jerry got remarried, my first husband, to a great woman, and she was always involved in our children's lives because it was her life as well. So we'd never expect for her to just be sitting out on the sidelines and not being active in our parenting.
I think when it came to that situation, because in a sense, I guess I would be considered, or was, a step parent. However, my ex-husband has never met this other child that he's had. So I didn't know my role in
Right.
that. I don't really know if any woman would know their role in that
no.
necessarily. This child is, a product of an affair, essentially. But, and that's something that I just let him handle and take control of. I just didn't feel like I really had a horse in the race with that. But on our marriage portion of it, yes,
Right.
it definitely...
Yeah. Yes.
It allowed for a lot of
was a
bitterness that
stinger.
it's a
Yeah.
stinger. It's still sometimes a stinger.
And I think that ultimately led to part of the demise of your marriage.
It did.
Because it was something that was never really recovered and handled and dealt with.
That's true.
But as we get older, we grow and mature and we learn different ways to deal with things. And we've said this before, that we wouldn't handle the situations the same way that we did
Absolutely
in any
not.
aspect of our lives.
And I also think that being divorced now has allowed me almost like the space to ask John and to have a better relationship with him than we ever had in our marriage.
You have much better communication
We do.
now than you ever have
We
before.
do, because there's no reason not to.
Right.
There's no reason not to.
And I think for me and you as well, communication is the utmost important
Yes, with co-parenting.
for our relationship and our co-parenting abilities.
Would you say we over-communicate?
Probably. We probably tell a little more than we should, but hey, it's whatever. We know
I
that
mean-
our situation is not going to be favorable to everyone.
Right.
However, we want to show a good bright side to divorce and co-parenting because there aren't very
You
many.
don't have to be best friends with the step parent or
But
parent.
you don't need
But
to
you
be
don't,
enemies.
Exactly. Your goal is exactly the same across the board. Set a good example for your children and raise them in healthy, happy, loving homes.
Right.
That's it.
And it just works better in our situation with our dynamic if we are really involved in each other's lives.
And we really are.
We really, really are.
Like,
but it's okay.
Yeah,
It really
I
is because
love
it works for us.
It's our family.
And it's great. And while we are lighthearted about a lot of things that we discuss, and we have really stepped out of both of our comfort zones because it's not like either of us to really put ourselves out into the world. And
No.
we have let so many people into our lives and told not only our co-parenting stories, but our private stories about our love, our childhood, our marriage,
Your heartbreaks.
everything.
Yeah.
And now we want to show the good, bad, and ugly of the co-parenting. And while now, yes, we have a great relationship, it's still not perfect.
No.
It's newer. I mean, our relationship isn't even a year old. So we're still trying to really dissect everything. And there are times where during our blogs, we'll find out things that we didn't know before about
Yes.
the other person or the other spouse or the ex-spouse or something that happened all along those lines when we weren't communicating.
That's right.
And it's difficult. And I know that there will be other times that things will be difficult. But here's the good thing about that is that now we know how to communicate it better.
We do.
So it won't turn into something that's just really volatile
No.
like it did before.
No, we trust where it's coming from now as well.
Like I'd like to say that now we have boundaries, but we really don't.
No, we have none. None at
There
all.
aren't any boundaries.
None.
But we know that there are certain lines, and I don't think we cross them.
And I don't think none of us have.
And
No.
and they're just things that we just know. It's just understood.
It's almost like those boundaries, you know, I set them for myself even with you just because I think that that's the healthy way to go about any relationship.
Yes.
Set boundaries for both parties. What you're comfortable with, because maybe I wouldn't be comfortable with coming over here every single day.
But you do.
But I do. But you know, you want to set boundaries like, okay, Lauren, you know,
But we both have a personality where we know when it's time for us to have a break. And we appreciate that.
like yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, I needed a break. I was going to lose my mind.
Yes.
And
yes.
that was fine. We get it. We can communicate it to one another. And there we go.
Yeah, and it helps that we're moms. That's the one common ground that we share. You're a mom. I'm a mom. We all get it. We know the
Yes.
frustrations, the highs, the lows. We've been there. Where
And
you just want to
during
light your
those
hair on fire.
times that it was so hard and so stressful, and we'll get into that a little bit more coming up in our blogs to just show how hard it was on your side, how hard it was on my side, because I'm in uncharted territory. I'd never been a stepmom before. I'd only ever been a mom. And you had never been an ex-wife
With children.
with children.
Yeah.
So there were so many new things happening in our lives. We'll get to all that stuff later on, but we want to show you how we dealt with it during that time
Yeah.
and how it's helped in our future endeavors
Yes.
or how it will help.
So the what not to do's essentially,
Yes.
which I'm glad we went through because I think they're relatable
yes.
to so many people. Yes, they're wild and outlandish and some hilarious, but they're relatable. They're real topics. Going to court, picking attorneys, filing this, filing that. We've done it all. We've walked through a lot of messiness.
Yes.
So we've got a lot of knowledge about it.
We do. And we say this on our website. We're not experts. We're not licensed therapists. We're not
No.
doctors, lawyers, attorneys, judges, whatever. But I think sometimes life experience really can
Yep.
overcompensate for
We're street
all
smart.
those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly are street smart. We know a lot of things about this particular topic.
Field.
Ocean.
I am
Ocean
a
of broken
professional
dreams.
ex-wife.
I'm a professional lunatic at this point.
Professional mom. There you
Professional
go.
mom. Yes, professional mom.
So we have some wild stories, and yes, it's kind of crazy that we were neighbors, and she's the stepmom, and I'm the mom or wife and ex-wife. But I think it just adds realness. We're humans. We're authentic.
And we'll we're trying to really take it slow in
Yes.
certain things that when we decided to take this journey together, we had very strong convictions about what we would and wouldn't share.
Right.
And we kind of let those down a little bit and we're like, all right, well, we'll give a
open
little
up.
bit more on this end, but there's so much more to come.
There
and
really
there's so
is.
many more people that will be involved in our story.
That's right.
That will have their time to let their voice be heard. You'll hear from our children and all of our exes and the mailman. No, I'm kidding. Everybody. I mean, but you'll get to see, we want to do more where people can really see how it goes, like our day-to-day life goes.
Our dynamic, what a morning and a whole day looks like, and how we all run around and help each other, and our custody, how we do our visitations and how we parent.
And,
So,
and the things, like, I really can't wait to show, and we did that a little bit this week with the school projects, but how it was at one point in our lives and how it is now. And it's like,
the then and now.
yeah, it's just like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's so surreal to think that, wow, we did go through all that. But we just get so many questions about who is she? Who is he?
What is your dynamic?
What is this?
So we wanted to clear some of it up.
Yeah.
And what, if you haven't or maybe don't want to go all the way back and read some of the first blogs to come up to where we are now, just to kind of speed you up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we cover everything?
Probably
not.
There's lots to cover. However, we got the basics out.
We did, and we'll always answer questions. I mean, everything is out there for public knowledge at this point, so.
It's good and bad sometimes. But anyway, there's more to come. We just wanted to give you kind of a recap, and we did that. And we really hope you tune in to our podcasts,
Our blogs.
read our blogs. Our YouTube channel has a lot of different Q&As
With
that we've
her
done.
ex-husband and my ex-husband.
We do Whiskey
Whiskey
Wednesdays
Wednesdays,
on our
yeah.
Facebook. We go live every Wednesday, and you kind of get to see us
In action.
in our natural habitat.
Yeah, literally. In our hood.
And our craziness. So we just wanted to give you all kind of a really like a roadmap to
There you go.
all of our
Us.
things.
Our
All of our
circus.
things.
It's
So
a
check us out
circus.
online, our website, www.wifestales, wifestales.com.
And of course, we're on Facebook and Instagram at Wife's Tales. Or just at Wife's Tales. I guess that would be the handle.
Oh,
We're still really getting, we're working on this.
on this lingo, this technology
We're older.
lingo. Yeah,
I mean, she's 26, but.
I really am. I really am. You're as old as you want to be.
Oh.
All right, so we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.